I mean, it's the co-option. You get kind of led into the club, and then you start to believe the thoughts and the propaganda, of that club. Right? You're on the inside now, and then you end up going on MSNBC, or you end up writing a book, or you end up doing whatever, and then selling to other Black Americans who maybe have not made it, and are still living in poverty and are still struggling and still looking for answers. You end up taking that. You end up taking the same language of the oppressors, of the wealthy elite, political elite, wealthy class of this country, and then you take that and you sell it to other Black Americans, but it's coming from a Black face. And so, I think some Black Americans are more likely to believe that. And so I think that's a huge thing. And they control the media, and they control how, that's the biggest place that someone's going to go, where you're going to reach a broad audience, particularly Black people as well. And when we're talking about music and hip hop and Black musicians, capping for Biden and all these things, right? People tend to listen to that. So if you can't change any of, if you can't really get to those people, I think they're going to continue to sell that to Black Americans who will listen. And then we're not really going to get anywhere. So I think that's why we need to talk to those people and get them to really understand that, I know you might think you're doing a good thing, you're out here telling people to vote, et cetera, but these are the reasons why.
Right.
It's actually, it might come from a good place, but it's actually detrimental to the cause. Maybe you're even trying to push for.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe they do have good intentions, and that could be only because they don't understand fully what's going on. But Margaret, same question to you. Is it oppression for the sake of oppression, or is there some sort of, purpose to oppress Black people in particular?
Sure. It's very deliberate. If you go back, it was the 4th of July a couple of days ago. Mm-hmm. I wrote about it in Black Agenda Report last week. The Declaration of Independence was about making sure that the American colonists could steal Indian land without restriction. The British, for a variety of reasons, restricted their settlements. They didn't want to hear that. They were afraid the British were in some way going to limit slavery. So that is why they declared their independence. And it's mentioned there. It's like one of the grievances against the king is that he's excited the savage Indians against us, or something to that effect. So, and it speaks of rebellion. He's fomenting rebellions, meaning slave rebellions. They were constantly complaining about slave rebellions, or that the British were going to encourage them or something. So it starts from the beginning, from the very beginning. That is the foundation of this country, is oppression that is racialized. And as slavery became more entrenched, they fought a war over about slavery. Now, it's kind of complicated, the Civil War. I'm not saying everybody on the Union side loved Black people or Lincoln did. I know that. But that was the cause of the war, and slavery ended because of a 4-year-long bloody confrontation. So absolutely, this is deliberate. It's all deliberate. And every time Black people start to free themselves, Reconstruction is crushed. The Civil Rights Movement, what happens when discrimination is made illegal? Well, the mass incarceration system begins. Redlining, all kinds of things that made it difficult or impossible for Black people to prosper, even when we did this quote unquote right thing. The Black veterans who didn't get their GI Bill benefits. It's always deliberate, and we are always the target, because we occupy this special, and not in a good way, special role in society as the group of people who are always going to be targeted, who will always be the point of comparison for others. So people come from all over the world and they're anti-Black. They come from places where there aren't any Black people.
Yeah.
But it must be very clear to them as soon as they get here that is the group that is on the outs, that is permanently on the outs.
So I have a follow-up question to that. So let me see how to phrase this question. So let's say Black people have identified the problem. Mm-hmm. Why is it though it's Black people? Do you believe that the success of slavery has convinced white male supremacy, the white male power structure, that, hey, this particular group, these descendants of African slaves, have been proven to be a group that's very effective at extracting, income from labor? Like you said, mass incarceration. So slavery just kind of goes to the prison system. I mean, just think about that. You go, slavery's so bad, we're going to outlaw it, but we're going to keep it for prisoners. I just think that it's very weird for a country that professes, justice and democracy and everything. Your thoughts on that, Margaret?
Well, it is, but it's all a lie, isn't it? And yes, it is deliberate. And the lies are deliberate. I mean, it's very diabolical when you think about it, that this one group is marked to be the targets of all kinds of wrongs for hundreds of years, and that our position does not change. We're always the one if you look at anything bad, we're at the top. Any good measure, we're at the bottom. And that's not by accident. It's funny. Last week, there was an article in the New York Times about how Black people lag in income. And it was actually a debate. Can we start saying that it's discrimination? I mean, seriously. And there were people who said, well, no, you can't, because if you poll white people, they say they aren't racist. So, we have all this racism, but no racists. It's kind of funny.
I guess that's the problem. But that is literally, that's funny you say that, but that's kind of white American culture. It's always the, they never want to even use racist. They want to use bigot. There's always this softening of racialized language, racialized discussions. They never want to talk about the entire details of what happened. And like I said, I'm reading this book. It's called Slavery's Capitalism. It's a great book, and it's just kind of showing how a lot of our American structure of everything you would think is based or has a foundation in slavery. My question now is, how can Black people get out of this oppressive state? Now, this is the $1 million question. How can Black people get out of this oppressive state when it's so intertwined? Like I said, it's so intertwined in our system that if you point out certain things, people may not even know there is a connection, a foundation in slavery. And I'll start with you, Margaret, with that question.
Well, I think people have to realize that the system can't be reformed. And it has to be torn up. Capitalism, Black people will never thrive under capitalism. This country boomed because, as you were talking about, of the monetary value placed on Black lives of enslaved people. We were insured, we were mortgaged, we were loaned out to other people. People were forced to have children to make somebody else rich. I mean, this system is not one that will work for anybody, but especially not ever for us. So people have to start disassociating themselves from the system, which is it's hard to do. People, wear red, white, and blue on the 4th of July. They shouldn't, but they do. We're colonized still, and all of us are to some degree. But
what Black people and everybody, I would say, there's a difference in living in a capitalist society than being a capitalist. Like there
Yes,
is
I mean the
difference.
capitalists are, Jeff Bezos is the capitalist.
Exactly.
Elon Musk is the capitalist.
Right. We're just living here. Yeah, we're just living here.
We're the cogs in the machine.
Exactly.
But this system, the political system, is not reformable. The economic system is not reformable. And I think even if you don't necessarily know what steps to take, I think that acknowledging those facts is a step in the right direction.